This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in Colorado. I'm here with Dr. Pat Williams. Since 1990, he's been helping you to break through the barriers that block your own paths to success, satisfaction, life balance, and inner peace. I am here with the Master Certified, Board Certified Coach. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, you're very welcome. Honored to be here.
Let's start off a little bit about yourself. You were basically formally educated as cum laude graduate of Kansas University. You went on to receive your master's and your doctorate. You've been a licensed psychologist since 1980. You began executive coaching in 1990 with companies like Hewlett-Packard, IBM, Kodak, many other companies right here in Colorado. You began your own coach training school, and you were awarded Coach of the Year in the past. Share with me a little bit how coaching became your choice for a profession.
Well, yeah, that's been an interesting path. I kept taking psychology because I was interested in it, not because I wanted to be a psychologist.
Okay.
And the viewers should know that I didn't follow the path of Freud, analytical. I won't go into all that, but I was impressed in my master's program. Well, actually, before that, in the human growth development of Maslow, Carl Rogers. People heard about that, most people. So I went to a master's program in a small town in Georgia, which was interesting because with a bunch of us young hippies in a town of 12,000 Southern Baptists, but we were studying humanistic psychology. And then I got my doctorate in Greeley, Colorado, just east of here, in transpersonal psychology. So beyond kind of the spiritual, beyond the everyday. And so the short story is, when I became a clinical psychologist licensed, I did really perform looking at people as their diagnosis, but more as a person. And then I started specializing in things like post-traumatic stress with veterans, crash victims, etc. But a training school in town in Fort Collins asked me to do executive coaching with the executives of the teams that she was training.
Okay.
So that's how I got my foot in the door.
Interesting. Great story. And that's the short version, as you said.
It is the short version, yeah.
Coaching, as we know it today, I mean, it started in the late 80s and 90s, but before that, mentoring and hiring external consultants, it was prevalent, but it wasn't really termed coaching per se. Why has coaching become a respected profession, and do you hope to do your part to keep it that way?
Oh, that's a great question, because coaching was around in the executive arena, but it wasn't in popular literature, et cetera. And the word, if you researched it, probably 1959 was the first use of it. And here's an interesting side story. The word coach actually comes from a town in Hungary, K-O-C, Koch, Hungary. They made carriages, horse-drawn carriages, that took people from one place to another. So we say today that the coaching conversation is a conversation that helps you go from where you are to where you want to go. Now that sounds simple, but it's not, because we are trained listeners, facilitators. We avoid giving advice. We don't have answers, but we create a conversational space where a client gets to think what they've not thought and think it out loud with a committed listener.
Interesting. I have sat down with some of the top executive coaches in the country. I've never heard it explained like that. I didn't know it was an actual place. That's great.
Yep.
Who is coaching for? I mean, is it limited to executives, or can anyone benefit from what you provide?
Oh, that's a great question. When it first started, executive coaching was the arena where everybody came from, and then business coaching, and then, I've written books on life coaching, but I always tell my students and my mentees, you probably don't want to put life coach on your card, but it is what you do.
Okay.
You coach the whole person. So I think who it's for today, there are so many specialties: teen coaching, family coaching, addiction coaching, wellness coaching, business coaching, relationship coaching. But coaching is the process of helping the client figure out in some way what they already know. And the other one is what they haven't yet discovered, but we don't tell them what that is. We believe that the answers are within.
Okay.
And if they don't yet know them, it's just they haven't been asked the right question.
You provide that environment for them to dig deep on themselves.
Yeah. And the fun part is we don't know either. We get paid for asking questions we don't know the answer to.
That is really cool. And they provide that for you.
Yeah.
So you say you help high-level executives, entrepreneurs, and creatives on their whole lives,
Right.
not just their work identity. What do you mean by that?
Well, we are defined, especially in this country, but I think worldwide, by our work. People say, "Hi, who are you? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do?"
Yeah.
Instead of, "Well, what's your future plans, or what's the biggest excitement in your life?" So coaching today, especially at the master certified coach level and when we mentor other coaches, is who is the client needing to become?
Okay.
This sounds a little weird, but it's like the beingness, not the doingness. So I work with a lot of people whose job may not give them their fulfillment, but where else do they? Maybe they coach the Little League team. Maybe they volunteer with a Rotary Club or something. The job is just a job. But if you have a job you love and that's how you earn your money, that's top notch. So we coach people on finding out what does life want for them, not what is it they want for their life.
Interesting. As we know, there are many coaches out there. Many are technique and formula driven. How does your purpose-driven coaching different from that?
Thank you for that question. In the last few years, I've been writing and teaching a lot about the difference between, you call it formulaic, but transactional coaching. If you came to me because you wanted to write a new book and you wanted to work on your chapters, we can work on that. What are you doing for this chapter? Send me some copies. Weight loss, diet, exercise, that's all transactional and formulaic.
Okay.
Transformational coaching gets to the who. Who do you need to become? How do you need to change? How will you be different if this happens? And that gets to the heart-based.
A little bit deeper there.
Yeah.
When the public thinks of leadership, they may think of a position. You believe leadership is an activity. You work in the context of leadership alchemy. Explain that a little bit for us.
Well, yeah, leadership is an activity, not a position, meaning everybody that steps up to be part of the solution is in leadership. There might be a designated leader, a boss, a CEO, a chairman, whatever, but leadership we all have the capability for and the right to step into. The leadership alchemy is just that nice esoteric phrase of when you used to take two elements and mix them in a crucible and the heat would make a new element. That was what chemistry was supposed to be. I use that as a metaphor, and I use metaphors a lot in coaching. The language of metaphor.
Speaking of metaphors, as you use metaphors that really open consciousness, gain wisdom from the right brain, if you will, is this done in a one-on-one environment? Is it done on the phone? Can it be done in a group? Share with me a little bit of how that happens.
Well, so that's interesting because when I started doing full-time coaching in 1995 and closed my therapy practice, I was coaching by telephone. Okay. My classes were by telephone. The school I started to train coaches was all telephonic. From other countries, people would call into what called a bridge line. Then Skype came around, but Skype wasn't reliable. Today's Zoom is unbelievable, and Microsoft Teams, I would say too. We could do it that way in groups. I prefer one-on-one coaching still by phone.
Interesting.
Because I could walk around my house with my earbuds in and not be distracted how the person's looking or whatever. We still listen for their energy shift or what may be happening with them, but we don't have to get distracted by looking at the person. And now to each his own, that still works.
Interesting. It's amazing you still go back to kind of what you started with.
It's
after all this technology.
Well, as a psychologist, I had I was very good at empathy and body language, but after 7 sessions in a day, I might be, I'm afraid I'm going to yawn. I'm listening, but now on the phone.
Sometimes you can close your eyes and really get into your side as well.
I don't have to get distracted by the visual.
In 1998, you began also teaching other coaches, therapists, and professionals in your own school, ILCT. How can conscious living mastery help them? Share with me what that is.
Okay, here's the transformational story. So when I started the Institute for Life Coach Training, I was being asked by therapists who had heard me what I was doing, because I'd started doing coaching, and they wanted to learn it. And they said, we need a curriculum. And I said, I don't know how to do a curriculum. Well, said, you talk, we'll type. So that's how we got the first 40-hour class. And then I created more and more and more, primarily for psychologists, therapists, helping professionals, wellness professionals. Today, it's for graduate degree professionals. I sold the school in 2012 to my dean of students, but I still teach.
Sure.
I still mentor. And the other part of your question was
the actual conscious living mastery.
Oh, yeah. So Conscious Living Mastery is an online course I developed 3 years ago based on my 5 decades of professional development and personal development work, and my latest book, which is called Getting Naked, Emotional Transparency with the Right Person, the Right Time, and the Right Place. It's about where can you tell your truths and not share it with the wrong people at the wrong time.
Interesting.
We all have things we're hiding, and it's not all dark stuff. It might be something you gave up. You wanted to dance, or you had poetry, or what did you hide in your shadow that just needs to have a little light shined on it?
Interesting. Can anyone interested in transformational changes, especially for optimal life and work, benefit from any of your courses?
Well, the Conscious Living Mastery is a good online course for anybody. And if you're a coach, you can get credit. You can get ICF credit. But it's good for anybody. And we're going to be adding in 2023, which we now arrived at, a monthly Facebook group or LinkedIn group with me, so they'll get me live too. But we want to create lots of students that can kind of create with my staff conversational opportunities based on what you're learning. Because it's a pre-recorded course.
Okay.
But it's pretty powerful.
Pretty powerful to be able to create a community almost where you're sharing what you learned.
Right.
I mean, past participants have said they have found their happy place. They say they've been able to totally authenticate themselves, rebalance their perspectives, defining my best authentic day. I mean, are these all common experiences that you hear?
Yeah. Even with a course, it's you go through the video. There's every course. There's 12 modules, and everything has 25 to 35-minute video with a transcript, and then exercises that you have to do, and then you get the next course. So if you fill out you get the next. So it's at your own pace, but with a sequence, and it's pretty inspirational. Yeah.
You've touched thousands of lives out there. Your program has been trusted by over 10,000 coaches worldwide. You are a speaker. You're an author. Why the decision to write the book, Getting Naked? Why did you think that was necessary to kind of culminate it out there?
Oh, there's a story within that book, and I'll tell it as quickly as I can. But in 1975, I was a graduate student, 25 years old, in my master's program, and one of my mentors was Sidney Girard, a Canadian psychologist who was teaching at University of Florida. And he had written a book. Therapists at that time were taught not to share their life with their patients or their clients.
Okay.
And I believed, and he believed, that you could share just enough to make it valuable and empathetic, but not make it your story. So the quick story is, he came to my college and one of my professor's house for a fish fry, and I was so, at age 25, was, Professor Girard, will you sign a copy of your book? And he said, sure. He signed it. And I said, thanks. This book, I hope to write a book like this someday. He said, give me that book back. He signed it and said, Pat, if you never write your book, you have no one to blame but yourself. Sit. Here's the rest of the story. The next day, he went back to Gainesville, Florida, and was working on his car, and the jack slipped, and he was killed. So that became a deathbed message to me that I knew someday I would write this book. I wrote other books, co-authored. This is the only book I wrote by myself, and I kept stuffing things in a cubbyhole for 10 years and said, those are going to be in my book.
Wow. Definitely purpose-driven. There was a purpose.
Yeah, it is one of the calming
and powerful.
Yes,
very powerful.
Right.
For over 3 decades, you have clients on multiple continents. You've been department chair and board member with many organizations. You're passionate about this respected profession. Is this really your way of giving back? And does it continue to be rewarding for you?
Yeah, I call it my living legacy. I found my calling. I'm one of the early coaches. My wife and I, she's a master certified coach and only certifies those going for that highest level. I work with the younger that are getting into the profession and want to become certified and want to get quality training. So it's like, man, when we started the ICF in 1996, there was 187 members at the first conference. Now there's 60,000 certified coaches in 155 countries.
Wow.
I never knew that would happen.
And here we are today. And hopefully we have shared just enough of your story with folks out there to help them as well. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is his website. On the website, you can learn more about Dr. Batt and his unique approach. He can be hired as a keynote speaker or really as your own personal coach as close as your telephone. Check out years of testimonials he provides right there on the website as well. You can purchase his book, Getting Naked, online. Very easy. As we begin our new year, it's as easy as setting up a no obligation consultation where he can sit down and find out if you're a good fit for him to help you. Once again, that is Dr. Pat Williams, helping you to break through the barriers that block your own paths to success, satisfaction, life balance, and inner peace. This is Gary Atensa with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.